Hi everyone, Trina Phoenix here, and I wanted to get into some of these stanzas in, again, the sacred book, the Book of Secret Wisdom, a prophetic record of human destiny and evolution. And like I said, I think this book is fabulous, and the glossary is something I would suggest everybody purchase because it's one of the best ones I've seen. The only one I've seen in comparison is in my white and gold leather-bound Enoch book of, it's the Metatron, the Secret Keys of Enoch book. It's a pretty rare book too. And the glossary in that book is absolutely mind-blowing. But this is the stanza 1. It's called The Genesis of Divine Love. And it's so funny because this is kind of how the Lord showed me like why we're here. We're on these wheels of creation and we're experiencing for Creator as all of creation. So that's why humans are so powerful, is because we have all potential within us. So being a human is part of what you've been and part of what you are now because you've been through the human experience. But apparently we have the potential to be all or nothing. So that's pretty amazing. So this was beautiful because when I saw this, it's just resonating so much with what I saw with the zodiac wheel and how the gods are rotating the wheels, and the gods are attributes within each single sign of the wheel is representing a different god. It's what I was shown. So this was so connecting to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And each one of these are numbered. Like it says number 1 and it says number 2. So we'll be going through those. So 1, the gods were at work, rotating the stellar wheel. They were winding up the hidden mainspring, which would then unfold, manifesting itself in the concept of time. And see, we can travel at light speed, and light speed bypasses time. So time stops when you're in that vibration. The earth was waiting for it, for the spot bearing the name that was already aware of its mission. A small, barely visible drop of matter was swirling around in eternity, and for it the lords of destiny had foreordained love. Foreordained love. It was their loving intention to see that love would fill that little drop, and after condensing it, carrying it to its defined ultimate boundaries. 2, the sun was beginning its round. He had a defined role, the bearer of love. It was his job to imbue that small cluster with the warmth of the fiery heart, which finally started to take on a definite appearance. The newly attenuated state of matter enabled the sun to carry out the excellent work of filling it with his currents of abundant love. 3, the gods knew their task and set a new place for their wheel, which was now vibrating faster than ever. The density of matter was coupled with a firmness and an elasticity. The currents of love had struggled in order to successfully pierce the stone with their fire. The new kingdoms of stones was populating the earth, endowing her with power over their motionless bodies. The planet, raised by the currents of love, knew only one way she herself could bring forth life, and that was through love. Love, here she was, a rule, a law, a form of life. Only one thing was required of the earth, to love, and the lords of destiny kept strict watch over the fulfilling karma. 5. I think I missed 4, but it's in there. The planet was doing her utmost. She knew how to love and what it was to be loved. With all the zeal and fervor of her loving soul, she warmed the motionless stones, breaking through their hardness and their elasticity. She revived. Drinking in the generous currents of love, the stones were resurrected. They began to blossom like petals of divine flowers and took their place in turn. The planet was beautified by a profusion of flowers. 6. The warmth of the sun became stronger, for he was clearly experiencing the magical power and the influence of love. And the flowers loved both their father sun and their mother earth. They were the children born in common. The parents carefully looked after their flowers, their luxuriant heads of many colors opened wide towards them. The universe upheld the work of the Lord's, and he was pleased with the flowers. The first successful appearance. Ceaselessly they worked, imbuing the world with a fragrant aroma. Attracted by the flowers and the power of love, the constellations generously imparted their own. The lords of destiny were content, and all was proceeding according to their predestined plan. 7. Love reigned supreme all over the world. She was calm and content in her earthly domains. All the celestial bodies supported her in the divine work. Only the sun sometimes peered anxiously into the bowels of the earth during the times when she hid her sides from him as she rotated. Because of the density of matter, the sun was not able to glimpse what was happening on the other side of the planet. 8. Eventually, robust vegetation girdled the world, hiding the gentle flowers in its shadow and cloaking their tiny stems with its mighty roots. These giants seized power and began to swallow lightly, greedily, cutting off the warm solar rays from those who were shorter and much weaker than they. Without the caressing warmth of the all-loving sun, the lesser creatures withered and perished. 9. Evil had appeared in the world for the first time. The sun was unable to discern what was going on beneath the thick crowns of giant trees. These effectively concealed evil, which had managed to steal in superstitiously. The all-seeing eye of the sun partially lost its power, for he could not illuminate the hidden backside of the earth. 10. The condensation of matter came to the end of its tether. Billions of years had passed, and the human souls were still similar to stones. How could they have become so callous, so impenetrable? It was a difficult question to answer. They had become acquainted with the evil, who was already rotating his black wheel of time in full swing, standing just beyond the border of light, while, on the reverse side, the darkness was trying to obscure the whole of the light so as to transform him into gloom. But for that, she needed some assistance from the earthlings. 11. The light was bravely armed, and it was fighting with the one power of love. But because he was already ablaze with pure divine love, he felt no hatred towards the darkness, nor did he know jealousy. Love was the most powerful weapon, and the darkness was helpless against her. It was necessary to wield the weapon, to be omnipotent. But the darkness could not approach the light openly, for she would immediately burn down, engulfed by the flame of love. but by and by she found her way around. She would enter the human hearts, which were alone capable of holding the sacred divine gift. 12. The human heart started to glow like the celestial fire of stars their self. And the tiny sun within the human breast was full of the bright and brimming over currents of love. Nevertheless, the heart, parched with endless thirst, went on constantly searching only for love. For the divine impulse could be quenched by love alone. Apparently, the love of the earthly hearts did not know satisfaction, for she still had not yet fully experienced the power of the sacred divinity. The supreme love, an enormous task of recognition lie ahead. And so, to fulfill the task of the pure heavenly labor, the lords of destiny asked the gods to launch a supreme mechanism which would turn another wheel, one that would go beyond all the bounds of time, leading human hearts along the heavenly pathways to the recognition of true love. This is the journey. We've been birthed out of love into forgetfulness of love, and now we're reuniting with love. So the second stanza is the knowledge of the heart. 13. The day arrived, the wheel gradually gained momentum and led human hearts towards knowledge. Something the hearts had known for a very long time, but man was not yet able to comprehend the wisdom of his own heart. He had not actually guessed that the heart was capable of knowing. And all the while, the still small voice, which imparted the wise counsel of life, was practically inaudible to the insensitive human ear. And even when the voice rang out with an unmistakable clarity like an alarm bell, calling its hearers to arm themselves with the power of love on the eve of death, man attempted again to muffle it, preferring to make a roundabout route through the labyrinths and the machinations of the mind. But the intellect was not able to perceive what the heart knows, for it was subject to decay. Evil could easily penetrate therein too. Not fearing any encounter with the bright, dazzling light of the fiery thought, man could think only on the lowest levels, and so the wheel began a new round. 14. People gradually began to pay attention to the leadings of their own heart, becoming convinced that the mind's contemplations, more often than not, led them to wrong conclusions. And barely perceivable and perceptible was the voice of the heart. It appeared it had progressed to truth. And so there was a pressing, a need to hearken to that which possessed. Sorry, that is a confusing sentence. The perceptible voice of the heart, it appeared, had presaged the truth. And so there was a pressing need to hearken to that which possessed the wisdom of insight. But how to do this? How is it possible to avoid mistaking the mind for the inaudible tremors of the current of the heart? People started to become thoughtful once again, and the heart, meanwhile, was still waiting for the time when it would be accepted as the best and most faithful friend. 15. The sun was shining, keeping a close watch upon the human hearts, and he tried to nourish them with the fires in a bid to reinforce the power of life. Life herself was the gift of the light, for without him she could not be conceived. Would this world even exist if there were no sun? He gave the light, and it was in the rays of light that life had spread her immortal wings. Yes, life was immortal, for she was the forever companion of the light, who did not know death. Life and light were one. 16. The heart, woven out of light, belonged to life. The most delicate particles of condensed matter were used in its formation. The heart's secret was that it could not live without love. Only love's energizing currents would wind the hidden mainspring therein. The springs that allowed the wheels of life to rotate. The heart without love was dying away, losing its life force and even turning into stone. 17. The darkness was overtaking those people who had trampled down their inner light and were so useless to life. There were the people of death whom evil was penetrating continuously, not only their thoughts, but also their breast, wherein he ruled on a soulless throne of stone. There was nothing for him to fear, for a stone could not strike a spark that would have burnt the darkness. Tenacious paws, oh how the darkness desired such hearts. One had to work very hard to get his own way, and the darkness spared no effort or means to this end. If she could only see herself ensconced on the throne which had previously belonged to life. 18. Man was endeavoring to grow in grace and wisdom. He had already been able to distinguish the light from the darkness in him. These two principles were rightly interwoven, forming a single individual essence. Gloomy thoughts swept past, dictating strict orders and generating combative atmosphere. Evil was amissing the legions of venomous thoughts, capable of poisoning the whole joy of life with their sinister stench. Joy was the lampion oil which made the flame of pure love glow so brightly. The dark host of the gloomy thoughts was successful, depriving the little fire of the nourishment it so needed. The flame was gradually diminished in size, and a light puff of air was all that would be needed to extinguish it forever. The world was being deprived of joy, without which both life and love would be unthinkable. 19. The sun, too, was endeavoring to give all that he could. He tirelessly warmed the ever-cooling hearts in the rays of love. The sun wished to apply the full force of his energizing currents to restore the human souls to life. He did not blame people for having lost the gift, their ability to love. For the star himself, the most important thing was love. Therefore, he kept on blazing with greater and greater fervor, so that the fire-breathing warmth of his heart would be enough for all. He was ready to enter into every breast and ascend from the depths of the earth in the form of billions of tiny lights which would scatter like stars and delight eternity with their magnificent currents of love. But to that end, it was necessary to find such people capable of accepting the mighty warmth of heaven, unafraid of being burnt alive in the fire-breathing flame of love. to actually become the sun. This was something only man could wish for. So day by day, the sun circled the earth in search of him. The gods were turning the wheel, and the winding up of the mainspring, which was merging with the powerful spirals of the new currents being sent into the sun's aid. They were proclaiming the beginning of a new era, which would be experienced under the sign of fiery love. Stanza 3, the sowing of love. The light was triumphing. This is such a beautiful story of the unfolding, it appears, of our soul, and how the sun is trying to reawaken within us. And when the sun within you reawakens, it reawakens you as love. So the stanzas, we're into the third, which is the sowing of love. When you look at these, okay, the first one, genesis of love. So it's creation of love. Second, the knowledge of the heart. The knowledge of where the love operates through us is through the heart. And then the third, the sowing of love. How do we create and sow love? It's by opening up and expanding the love within our hearts. So then the gift of the mind is stanza 4. And then the persecution of love. How love fell into darkness, and darkness was afraid of making a step towards the light. And then stanza 6, the final battle of love, light and dark. And 7, fiery baptism. Through the fire we go for purification. And then 8, the love of the heart. Getting to know the power that's within you. Stanza, I think this is 6, no, 7. 9. This is stanza 9. The era of wisdom and beauty. And this is what we're doing, I think, now, is that stanza. And then stanza 10 is the divine humanity. So the divine humanity is what we're looking forward to becoming. And then stanza 11 is the fire of love. We be transmuting into fire and utilizing and using fire once again. Stanza 12, through this transformation of fire, the birth of the gods. And this is where we want to go. And that is the 12th and final stanza. And then after that, it goes into the glossary. So like I said, this book to me is really amazing. I love the information. I love how it's explaining the journey of creation through love and through the wheel and through time, because that's pretty spot on. So I hope you guys are enjoying this information. We will get into next, we'll get into the third stanza, the sowing of love. And like I said, we're already through 3 of the stanzas and through the whole introduction of this. So this stuff goes really quickly. So I will give you the other stanzas. And like I said, I would suggest everybody get this one for your library, because the glossary is profound, and the basic concepts of creation and love that are taught through these stanzas, they're very valuable. They're priceless. They're simple and they're true. And it's helping me to remember my triple fire, my fire of love, and how to reawaken, ignite, and work and utilize that fire. So embrace the flame that you are and let it shine brighter than the sun, moon, or the stars. So much love to you all. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Agape love to you all. See you soon.